News breaks that BlackRock, the owners of America itself, is close to filing a Bitcoin ETF. Has it been Gary G's mission, commanded by his overlords this entire time, to cripple the crypto industry and let big BlackRock gobble up as much sweet Bitcoin as possible before the inevitable bust? As prices range at the lowest levels in 3 months, this news is truly massive. Right now, Bitcoin price ranges at its lowest levels of the last 3+ months and actually risks breaking down out of a few key macro patterns. But much bigger than all of that is this story, and I think it's painting a clearer and clearer picture about what exactly has been happening in these crypto markets and the agenda behind basically the SEC's attempt at crippling the industry. And I just want to jump into this. So BlackRock is actually close to filing for a Bitcoin ETF application. BlackRock manages over $9 trillion in assets. It's absolutely insanely huge. Basically owns a stake in America, like everything. Almost owns everything, basically. Genevieve talking here on Twitter that they're applying for this Bitcoin ETF. They don't know for sure if it's a spot or a futures ETF. If it's truly a spot ETF, this would be massive for the actual price of Bitcoin. But, if the SEC would approve anyone, it's probably going to be BlackRock. And as Matt Allen says on Twitter, after all these years of trying to get a spot ETF, this is what it will finally come down to. So what are the chances? And again, this is just some speculation that I think a lot of people have, but it is just speculation. What are the chances that, one of the reasons that the SEC and the people that put Gary Gensler where he is, put him there for a reason, to maybe bring the prices down, the price of Bitcoin, the price of the crypto industry, basically, tried to cripple the industry as much as possible so that people that missed the 2021 wave, or should I say institutions and billionaires/trillionaires that missed the 2021 wave, were able to get in at lower prices, command a bigger and more powerful chunk of the market, and trying to absorb as much as possible through basically fraudulent enforcement actions by like the SEC and everything like that. Try as much as they could to bring the prices down to try and gobble up as much as possible, because you and I know that crypto is a worldwide phenomenon. It's a worldwide currency. It is not based in the U.S. And you and I know that if it would get banned in the U.S., obviously that wouldn't be good for the price short term, but ultimately it wouldn't matter. And we're going to continue with that talking point in a second here. But if you and I know that, what are the chances maybe they know that as well? And this is truly just speculation, but what if they wanted to get in basically cheaper? As Mr. Poppy here says on Twitter, Gary finally did his overlord's bidding. We just need one more discount to kill some competition. We'll enter cheap for the next cycle, and you'll get a sweet position once you retire, referring to Gary Gensler. But also, I think it's funny. So they're going to be using Coinbase custody for the ETF and the crypto exchange's spot market data for pricing based on this BlackRock filing here. So what does that mean, right? The Coinbase was just sued a couple of days ago, but they would be using Coinbase custody to custody the Bitcoin they would buy, which would be, potentially, billions and billions of dollars of it. Connecting the dots here, it kind of seems, maybe that is what they're doing, right? Maybe they have just been trying to FUD the market to get it to come down as much as possible, to get good entries, to own as much of it as possible. Again, they manage over $9 trillion in assets. And Wendy here also saying on Twitter that BlackRock owns like 99% of all companies in America. They own public servants. Basically, their influence can't be discounted. They have immense influence and immense power. We all know in general politicians are bought. Whoever gives them a bigger paycheck, they will lobby for whatever issue there is. And so, is it possible Gary's been paid or put there for a specific purpose? I think that's kind of obvious, right? Will on Twitter talking about, quoting here, and then we psyoped them into selling their Bitcoin to us. You see a lot of these massive money managers, Goldman Sachs CEO Soros. We see Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan, and then Gary, right? Massively big. Cousin Crypto saying that the United States of corruption tried ending crypto in order for BlackRock to accumulate Bitcoin as low as possible. Gary's in the pocket of BlackRock. It makes sense, right? I mean, so first of all, nobody knows 100% of this is true, but I just want to ask the question: if it is true that that's the case, that we've been put here in this kind of predicament, getting crumbled, the crypto industry getting crumbled because of this, where basically the overlords of the earth are manipulating the markets to their advantage. If that were to be true, would that be surprising to you? Would that be shocking? I don't think it should be, basically, over the years, every time there's some kind of story that comes out where it requires a little bit of paranoia on our part for it to be realistic, usually it ends up actually being true. Usually when there's dots that get connected, whether it's in finance or health, or again, I'm sure many of you have examples you're thinking of over the last 3 years specifically, usually those kind of conspiracies and all that kind of stuff, the reason they exist is usually backed up by like pretty factual information. Not always does it come true, but very often it ends up being true. And if this is the case, I personally see this as being extremely bullish for Bitcoin, because the narrative of people controlling something, manipulating price to try and bring it down so that they can get in cheaper, ultimately then boosts the value proposition of Bitcoin if they actually desire it and they want to buy a lot of it. In the short term, it looks bad and it feels bad because price is tanking and there's so much FUD and in fear around crypto trying to get you to sell your bags. But ultimately, if you zoom out, if that's actually true, that's like the most bullish narrative possible. Now, we're living through it right now. It's going to take time for this to play out and time for this to be confirmed if true, as with all conspiracy theories and things like this, but it's absolutely insane. And on top of that, Hong Kong's banking regulator, this is breaking news as well, is pressuring lenders to take on Bitcoin and crypto exchanges as clients and try to embrace cryptocurrency. It's encouraging to see regulators in Hong Kong recognize the potential of Bitcoin and crypto, and this will pave the way for greater adoption. Now, in the past, we've seen China ban crypto like years back. They've banned it a billion times, but they've banned it usually like towards the top of markets, whereas the U.S. has just banned or is basically trying to FUD crypto at the bottom, which is the exact opposite of China. So honestly, if you look at it just from that perspective, it almost looks like China is more concerned about their citizens' safety, more concerned about retail than the U.S., which is kind of ironic based on all the stories you hear and everything like that. But I mean, if a country would ban Bitcoin after a massive pump, that wouldn't be as bad as trying to ban it at the bottom to try to prevent people from getting in at those low prices, right? If they ban it at the top and get people to sell at the top, oh no, you sold at the top, the local top of the next few years. But if you do the opposite and sell at the bottom, or try to prevent you from buying at the bottom and selling at the bottom, well, obviously that's a lot less protection for the consumers and retail investors than the opposite. And Hong Kong policy is the direct opposite of the U.S., like what I just said. Whether or not you think it's the U.S. or Hong Kong, it's starkly clear that Hong Kong sees failed American policy as a huge opportunity for them. This quote here is saying, banks do not have a ban on crypto clients, but they are reluctant to take on exchanges over fears they could be prosecuted. The pressure underscores the difficulties being created by Hong Kong's push to establish itself as a global center for the crypto industry, especially after the implosion of things like FTX. And comments here talking about Elizabeth Warren getting more, this being more ammunition for her because, just trying to, make China out to be the worst thing in existence. So if we look at Bitcoin's actual chart, we're actually breaking down of the past 3 months out of this descending channel that we've been in. We're at the very, very, very bottom of it right now. And as you can see, we're basically, if this inverse head and shoulders that's about a year long is to be valid, we have to hold basically exactly where we're at right now. So this is a big test of that. Right now, also, we're within the channel of the $30,000 to $25,000 or $24,500 range, where Bitcoin, massive resistance here. We found resistance here, and now, if this holds a support, this will validate this resistance turn support, and it will be resistance turn support. We're in the middle of trying to validate that as well. But as we've been talking about, will we finally get this pullback down to the $23,000 range? Ultimately, if we came down to 22 or 23 and then bounced back within a few days and had a weekly candle above 24 or 25,000, that would validate this as support. Like that would validate it. Just because we dip our tip below it for a day or two, a couple days, that's fine. That's what wicks are for. We see wicks everywhere. We see wicks that end up closing back within the structures pretty much every time there's any structure. So that would be 100% normal. But, will we have to come down to this lower price range first? And I think that's what kind of is the big question right now, as we're seeing a lot of weakness in the markets, but I think a lot of the narratives that are coming out, and I mean, if you haven't noticed, there's been so much breaking news just in the last week about crypto, whether it's all of the corruption at the SEC, which again, there was more breaking news within the last 12 hours. I talk about it all on my Twitter also. because it's so easy to, tweet information like that on Twitter. But ultimately, I personally do think, again, if you haven't noticed, we're in the middle of fighting right now. This is where the crypto industry is kind of fighting to survive, at least in the US. It's thriving in other parts of the world, but the price is also fighting right now. The price is struggling. Basically, think of it this way. If we get some clarification over the next couple of months as we go into the next halving, if adoption continues outside of the US and Bitcoin truly just ramps up for the next cycle, the next bull market, and if we end up, like, let's say BlackRock gets a spot ETF approved and a lot of the regulatory uncertainty in the US ends or gets resolved, at least even some, we don't need like full clarification, but at least more positive developments would happen. Imagine how big the bull market will get. And not even that, if there's true regulation in the US where institutions can come in and they don't have to feel like there's so much gray areas, which is deliberately the case right now. If that is the case, imagine how strong the bull market will be. That, in my opinion, is the catalyst to breaking cycles, where if we get true adoption, which basically you need regulation for, you need regulation in place, which we do not have yet. After all these years, still no clear regulation. They are resisting putting actual regulation out deliberately, and they've been doing that for years, specifically Gary Gensler. If we actually get that regulation, that can usher in basically the strongest bull scenario possible, that, you could see this market structure completely explode, change drastically, and price, go parabolic very quickly for a very long amount of time. But again, that requires actual regulation. And so that's the battle we're in the middle of right now. And take advantage of massive trading and deposit bonuses when you sign up with Femex and BitGet using my link below. You can earn free XPT with Femex, massive sign-up bonuses and deposit bonuses as well with both of them when you sign up to trade with my links below. Without further ado, sweet.